Hello everyone, Reverend Deanna Cox here, and this is your midweek reflection for September 21st, the first official day of fall. And I'm out here on the edge of the Daysland Golf Course, so hopefully I don't have to duck. But there's this gorgeous, I found this place tucked in away from the wind, just with this absolutely gorgeous tree behind me. And as I'm walking, listening to the breeze through the trees, I know there's also highway traffic noise, and there's kids out playing for recess from the school, and birds flying overhead. We talked last Sunday about the fullness of life, and here it is. I'm also in Daysland, partly because this is often the day that I come to be present in this community, but in particular I am present because there have been some significant deaths in the community, and I just want to be here and be present for the community. And so I ask that those of you out there hold this community in your prayers today. We are all going through a lot of stuff, but in particular today I would like to lift up the community of Daysland. So this coming Sunday, September 25th, we are going to celebrate Orange Shirt Day, which is on the 30th of September, and it is Truth and Reconciliation Day. And so we are going to hear, we have members of all three congregations that I serve that are going to present some reflections on their experience doing a blanket exercise in Drayton Valley. And so I'm super excited about that. And not because it's great to hear others' experience with it. I can talk to you about truth and reconciliation forever, but it is wonderful to hear it from people in your midst. And so I'm really excited about that sharing and hearing how the experience moved them and impacted them. And so we are going to do a joint service in Daysland at 10. So if you like sleeping in a little bit, that's great. There's a 10 o'clock service, and the fellowship is going to be upstairs. So there's ramps into the church, and the fellowship will be upstairs. There's a washroom on the main level. So it's going to be an accessible event, which I'm excited about. Also coming up next week, a week from today actually, there is a movie being shown at the theater in Killam. It's called The Living Room, and it's at 7 o'clock. It's the 8th Fire documentary on Indigenous history, and so I encourage you to attend that. And because one of the things that I have taken to heart in my learning is the challenge, not just with Indigenous folks, but within, whether it's Black Lives Matter or any other sort of marginalized issue that we are being called to look at. The challenge is that it is up to us to do our learning and to not expect that those who are marginalized are to teach us. And so I am excited that there's a lot of learning opportunities in our area. So again, that's next Wednesday, 7 p.m. in Killam. And if there is interest, I will be at the Killam Church after the movie if people want to do like a discussion, debriefing kind of thing after that. I had an interesting experience recently around language, and so one of the things around our learning is about learning how so many of Indigenous peoples lost their language through residential schools and are really working at reclaiming their language. I talked briefly about my stay at Carry the Kettle reservation in Saskatchewan when I mentioned the passing of Bernice Soto. And when I was staying with her and learning from Bernice, one of the things that she took us to, myself and my colleague who were staying with her, was a workshop on reclaiming the Cree language and learning there. There was a group of adults that were learning because their children were learning it in school, and so now they wanted to learn their language again. And so the conversation that I had around language was around German and Italian and how early settlers here, even European settlers, were very strongly encouraged, or a lot of peer pressure, to assimilate. And so a lot of language was lost. And so I just want us to, if you have any sort of stories like that in your history, to take a moment and think about what that loss is like for you, and then imagine what that, like, we are blessed in that there's probably have ancestors that still know our mother language, and so just to ponder for a bit what that might be like if you had no ancestors that could teach you your mother language because they had lost it as well. And that might give us an inroad for thinking about truth and reconciliation. The other way that I wanted to mention as possibly an inroad for thinking about truth and reconciliation was around the United Church has something called the affirming process, and that to become an affirming United Church, there is a lot of education and learning that happens as an entire congregation, and then a celebration afterwards. And affirming is the very intentional welcome of people of all gender identities and orientation. And the interesting thing that happens is once a community of faith goes through that process and does all this learning about how to intentionally welcome others, the interesting thing that happens is that they attract a lot more diversity than strictly gender and sexual orientation diversity. They attract a lot, like culturally diverse, faithfully diverse. And the reason is because they have spent so much time intentionally learning how to intentionally welcome people that are different than themselves, and how to do that in an authentic way. And so then people of difference come and gather with them. And so I think of that in regards to truth and reconciliation. If we can be really intentional and learn about how to authentically live into truth and reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, imagine what that can do for all the relationships in our lives and in the world. If we can learn how to do that with one particular group, that maybe there will be pieces of it that can apply to so many other situations in our lives and in our communities. And so I offer that as perhaps, if you keep thinking, oh yeah, truth and reconciliation, aren't we done with that yet? Like, maybe this is a way to start thinking about it. On Sunday, we heard a Truth and Reconciliation minute by Murray Sinclair, Elder Murray Sinclair, and he said that it will take generations to start to see the difference, see a positive outcome of our efforts of truth and reconciliation. And he said the education system, aka residential schools, was a big contributor to this problem, but that the education system and or educating ourselves is also a big part of the solution to learning about truth and reconciliation. So, folks, I offer you those perspectives, those ways about thinking about truth and reconciliation in our lives, in our communities, and in our world. I offer you this beautiful surrounding of creation that we are in and the fullness of life that comes with it all. And I offer you gratitude for the abundance that we far too often take for granted. I'm actually committing myself. I was buying some lunch at the Chinese restaurant, and I'm committing myself to learn to say thank you in other languages. And I think that with Thanksgiving coming up and all the things that we have coming in the next few weeks, I think that is a good thing. So in Cantonese, "cessez." In French, "merci." Megwich. And thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your gracious listening. And may you ponder with gratitude the fullness of life this week. Take care. God bless. Bye.